there is no perfectly preserved Quran on earth. Let's have a look. Quran 85, 21 to 22 states that the preserved tablet or protected tablet, the Allah al-Mahfuz, is protected and kept safe. Rather, it is a glorious Quran in a preserved tablet. Now, interpreted logically and literally, this means that the original archetype or divine record of revelation exists in a transcendent, incorruptible state, but not physically on earth. It exists on the tablet in paradise with Allah in a perfectly preserved or protected state. Now, this of course has direct logical implications when considered alongside the known existence of numerous textual variations in early Quranic manuscripts. Have a look at this chart. Here you've got the original Muhammadi Quran, of which we have exactly 0 copies. So you had multiple variations of the Quran that are known and discussed even in Islamic literature today. Al-Masudi's Codex, Ashraf ibn Ka'b Codex, and of course these days we refer to the Uthmanic Codex, of which we do not have an early original copy. We have fragments, but we do not have an early complete copy. Then you've got multiple different variations because the Quran has 14 readings or variations, and each of those has 2 transmissions. That's 28 transmissions, 14 readings, and then of course this takes us down to the Quran that we have today, the Hafs Quran, which was canonized in 1924 in Egypt. So officially the canonized Quran is only 101 years old. And of course this Hafs Quran has 4 known variants. So that's 42 plus 3 additional variants. That leads us to 45 canonical variants. I've covered in previous videos how these variants differ, where one variant will have him and the other one will have her, and the other one will have you did and the other one will have they did. These are not just slight variations in grammar, these are completely different subjects and objects and genders. Now, because the physical copies on earth show these variations, the claim that the perfect, unalterable Quran is located on earth is logically inconsistent. If the preserved tablet is in paradise, a transcendent realm, and multiple earthly versions differ, then the current physical Qurans are imperfect copies or approximations of the perfectly preserved Quran on the emerald or golden or whatever tablets in paradise. But the Qurans on earth are not the unchanging divine text itself. Do a simple test. Ask a Muslim which of the 14 qira'ats or readings and the 28 ruwayah or transmissions of the Quran is the one that is in paradise with Allah. Which of the 14 canonical versions of the Quran accepted today is the one that corresponds one-to-one with the Quran in paradise? If one of those transmissions or one of those canonized readings is the one that is in paradise with Allah, why would we need the rest? If you have the perfect book as written by Allah, why do you need up to 45 different canonical readings? So ask them to identify which earthly copy is the one with Allah. They cannot. You will hear excuses. So perhaps there is a divinely preserved Quran on a tablet somewhere, but the earthly manifestations of the Quran are fallible by nature. They're susceptible to copying errors, to scribal revisions, or editorial standardizations. And this obviously requires human transmission. And of course, this leads us to question the fidelity of human transmission, despite the theological assertion of divine safeguarding. Now, simply put, simple logic reconciles the presence of textual variants on earth with the Muslim assertion of perfect preservation of the Quran by placing this perfect preserved text in a heavenly realm. That is where the Quran itself tells us the perfectly preserved Quran is to be found, on those tablets. Ask a Muslim if they have those tablets, if they have a copy at their local museum. perhaps it's in Egypt. If they cannot point you at the tablets, well, then we don't have that particular version, the perfectly protected and preserved version of the Quran on earth. So Muslims do not have this perfectly protected version, and the earthly manuscripts are copies which are subject to human imperfection. Therefore, claims that are based on the idea that the earthly Quran manuscripts are absolutely verbatim and identical to this single archetype must be, well, rejected, but also re-examined in the light of this very clear Quranic distinction between the preserved tablet in paradise and the human transmitted copies on earth. I hope that was informative. I hope you learned something, and thank you very much for following the channel, and I will see you all next time.